Chapter 27. An hour later, and I was hanging on to the last drop of civility I had. Fate was on edge for no reason I could fathom. It's not like I'd been the one making sure I was going to get rid of him. Then there was the enhanced karma exposure. I felt a little like a ping pong ball with alternative waves of good and bad karmic energy coming at me from every different direction, and he was of no help. He yanked me into the stairwell of the office building where we had an appointment number 2 with Maxwell. Pull it together. Don't you think I want to? Ever since we left the house, I'd been bombarded by the energy of people we'd come in contact with. I felt like I was on contact overload. My nerves rubbed raw by what they were putting out. And the why was even worse. When I got too close, I could sense exactly why their auras looked like they did. I was proud I was holding it together at all. You can't act like a freak when we walk into that office. You know, I've had just about enough of you today. No one's asking you for a hand holding through this process, but if you could tone down the attitude, that will go a long way. This is who I am. Did you think last night was going to change anything? I was doing my best to forget last night and he just kept bringing it up. What was his issue? Actually, I think it might have done the impossible and made you worse. Trust me, I will not be looking for a repeat. Cupid, Cupid better stay clear of me for the rest of the time I was here. He was lucky I didn't barge in and start breaking arrows the way I was feeling right now. You go in there, pick up on whatever you can, and then get out before he starts picking up on how weird you're acting. Not a problem. I waved my hand toward the stairwell door. Quicker we got on with this, the better. When he didn't budge for a second, I tapped the non-existent watch on my wrist and said, "Time's a ticking." It was the last official send-off of my southern manners, but it got him moving. It wasn't a huge loss. My manners were never really worthy of the South anyway. We headed to the office, and it turned out I didn't even need to sit down. I walked into the office, said I needed to use the restroom, and walked right out. I was in a cold sweat by the time I made it out to the parking lot, and it still didn't feel far enough from the impact Maxwell Karma had. I sat in the boiling hot car and didn't care. I hadn't even had enough time to grab the keys off of him before I ran out of there, and I didn't want to risk coming into contact with anyone else the way I was feeling. I heard Fate get in the car just as I was getting the bowel in my stomach under control. What did you get? Too much. Way too much. He's evil to the core. I wiped my forehead as I started to breathe a little easier. Details: embezzlement, beat his wife, contemplating killing his partner. Need I go on? He leaned forward in silence as he started up the car. I looked at Fate and it didn't make any sense. You don't get anything off of him? I asked. No, I can't see his future. The AC came blasting on, and I angled a car vent to shoot straight in my face while I pondered what he didn't say. You went through the same ritual as I did, right? Yes. There hadn't been a single person I come within 50 feet of that I hadn't picked up on something from. He's fate. How could he not have picked up on his future? And then it hit. He has no future. He's going to die soon. Fate nodded. So Suit is going to get to him? Yes. I don't know what he wants from him, but it's not because he's a wonderful individual. That's for certain. He's killing him because he's bad. But why would Suit care? Either Maxwell has done something that would mess up his goal, or could he be looking to recruit him the way Harold recruits? However, he became one of us. Maybe he can make others like us. But why would it be so hard to kill him? We sat there in the parking lot, AC blowing in my face as I bounced my head against the seat headrest. We sat in silence for a while, just thinking. Then he finally spoke. I think I know. He's trying to do it under the radar. How? Certain types of death don't register as quickly and take longer to process. I instantly knew the type he meant. Like mine, sudden, traumatic, and mass casualty. Yes, it would buy him just enough time to get in there. We should stay local because whatever Suit is planning is going to happen soon. I agree. I've seen movies where the couple approaches the front desk at a hotel and then do a silent debate as they gaze into each other's eyes. A private communication happens as they both acknowledge their desire for one another. A soft smile, a loving look, maybe a handhold right before they declare themselves by asking for one room. This wasn't one of those moments. We'd like one, two, no, just, we'll be right back. I grabbed his arm and dragged him to the other side of the lobby to pound this out in private. I'm on a full blast. I'm on full blast, so to speak, on the karma front, so there is no need for the coziness of one bedroom. I want separate rooms. I crossed my arms, jutted a foot out, and concentrated on beaming the message through his stubborn brain on every level that I was unmovable on this topic. But you won't pick up on bad guy. The only way I can is from the residual traces of part he played in your past life. One room. Suit will show up for Maxwell, so no, two rooms. He countered my foot jut with a forward-leaning hover. Phew! If he thought that was going to work, he had no idea who I was. He reached a place in my psyche no man had ever gone before. The place where I cut off my nose, not once, but repeatedly, just to spite him, and not regret it at all, even as I was sucking air through two holes where I used to have nostrils. I'm not going to stand here and argue over something this stupid. I get that you feel awkward after the other night, but we work together and you'll have to get past it. I'm awkward. What about how miserable you are? Think maybe I need a break? Even if it's while I sleep? This has nothing to do with being uncomfortable. Liar. I am not a liar. Don't call me that. Then don't lie. I'm sorry your humongous ego can't handle the rejection, I said in a tone that made it clear was anything of a sort. But I'm going to have to insist on having my own room. That's final. Last chance. He spoke softly as he closed the small distance between us, and his hand reached up and cupped my cheek. Oh no, he was switching tactics. I didn't like this one little bit, but it wouldn't work. All I had to do was remember his words right after we had sex. He'd still been inside of me, hadn't even rolled off before he started worrying about entanglements. Bring it on, big guy. We'll see who folds on this. His hand moved lower, and right before he hit my pressure point, I realized what he was doing, but it was too late. I passed out thinking about what a huge jerk I slept with. I woke up in the bed of a hotel room. I could hear him in the bathroom doing whatever it was he did. You knocked me out. I knew he had, but I found it so appalling I needed to hear confirmation from his lips. Had to. He yelled out over the sound of running water. I can't believe you did that. No shock in my voice now, just verbal condemnation. Condemnation. He walked out of the bathroom, towel slung around his hip, his torsos covered in tattoos. People don't do that. Not normal ones anyway, only psychos and criminals. When he looked at me, I nodded as if to confirm that he fell in one of those columns, perhaps both. First off, why do you assume I would have been human? In spite of myself, I gasped. What else would you be? So close-minded. So many things clicked with that statement. Even for someone that hadn't even taken a human shape, he was still too rough around the edges. Murphy, Luck, and most of the others in the office hadn't either. but somehow he'd always been different. He walked over to the closet where things looked like they already been hung and pulled out a shirt and pants. Seriously, what are you? I'll tell you right before you retire. He pushed some hangers around. I picked up some things for you as well. The gesture of him picking clothes out for me seemed oddly personal. It's strange how sometimes those things were more intimate than anything else. The thing you did in the lobby, you will not do that again. Your human morality is becoming so tedious. Even if I was never human, isn't that what I am anyway? Karma, good, bad, right, and wrong? He leaned over, two hands on the bed, bringing himself eye level with me. What I did wasn't wrong, it was necessary. The muscles in his arms tensed as he pushed himself back up. How was that? You were digging in for a fight. I wanted to take a shower. Necessary. And what I want? It was such an arrogant statement, and I was more than ready to take up that fight until he dropped his towel. What are you doing? I turned my head quickly. Go in the bathroom. We've slept together. What's the difference? And we weren't going to again. I didn't argue, just grabbed an outfit from the closet and went to take a shower, hoping he'd be dressed when I got out. I hate airport food. Couldn't we have at least eaten at one of the restaurants? I never thought I would say this, but I think I miss our office caterer. We were sitting in Terminal A at Orlando Airport, and I was debating which part of this was worse, the food or having to wait for a plane we weren't even taking. The bread's soggy. Can't they figure out a way for the bread to not get soggy? They? Yes, the powers that be that control airport food. Everything else gets a little push in one direction or another. Did the universe really decide to draw the line here? I waved my soggy bread at him. I told you to wait. I'm hungry. You ate, remember? He had a fine little feast while I hid in the shower until my fingers pruned. Next time, don't take an hour-long shower. Next time, don't be an animal. How about that? You couldn't even save me a tiny bite? I ordered you something and then ate it. It was getting cold because you wouldn't leave the bathroom. Elbows on the table, he leaned forward, daring me to disagree. I rolled my eyes and then looked at the flight board. The plane should be taking off in 45 minutes, but I still wasn't sure Maxwell was even going to show. Fate had been doing some normal human type digging and found out he had travel plans this afternoon. I'd been more impressed before I found out that his detective work had really been flirting with Maxwell's secretary while I was sleeping. Then I was just annoyed. I wondered if he had plans on having sex with her too, and then asking if any of her plans had changed. Are you watching for him? He asked from across the table. Nope. Why? Because this soggy mess is bad enough without having to look at cracked open faces oozing pus. That bad? His face scrunched up as he asked. Yes, and your face doesn't make it any better. Why? What do you see? The people look the same, but they have trails in front and behind them. Sometimes the trails are very strong and some are translucent. I'd just taken a rather large bite when he nudged me. There. I turned to see Maxwell walking through the airport on the way to the terminal. He looked worse than ever, and I had a hard time swallowing back the bite of half-chewed food. I forced it down with a swig from my water bottle. You couldn't have given me one more minute? I stood and tossed my sandwich in the trash. So much for food. He can't get on that plane, Faith said as I sat down. If we lose tracks of Maxwell, we might never find Suit again. Are we on our own? I looked upward. Are you asking me, or are you trying to talk to the universe again? I'll settle for anyone that will answer me. Fate put his hands out as he lifted an ear upward. Yeah, I say it's just us. How do you know he can't get on that plane? He was already standing and motioning for me to get up as well. We don't have time to discuss it right now. Just keep him off the plane. The attendant looks like she's about to call for boarding. How am I supposed to do that? Any way you can. I'll go up and try to stall the attendant. But how? It doesn't matter how, just don't let him get on the plane. I watched as he literally swagged over to the attendant, a young, pretty thing in her 20s. Maybe he'd sleep with her and asked if she was still going to get on the plane. I cringed at the thought entering my head. I pushed the thoughts from my brain. Being the used, bitter girl wasn't a good look. I sashayed over to Maxwell, or tried to anyway. I never really practiced sashaying. There's not much use for it in the courtroom, so I tried to emulate luck. Maxwell's eyes lit with recognition as soon as he saw me while I tried to hold down the soggy sandwich. Maxwell, I thought that was you. How are you? He stood and took my hand in greeting. It was hard to keep the smile on my face with the bad karma. It actually looked like he had pus dripping onto his dress shirt. How was it that only I could see this? Good. How's everything going? His eyes darted to my stomach briefly as he asked, a reminder of the pregnancy ruse last time we met. I lost it, I said in a soft voice as if it was hard to speak of. Oh, I'm so sorry. My husband and I split in the stress of it all. I added a dramatic shrug, the kind that said I was disappointed but accepting. Oh, I understand. Were you headed out? I was about to catch the flight to New York. Oh, I tried to weigh that comment down with as much disappointment as I possibly could. I never been a natural flirter, so I wasn't sure if it was coming across as intended or more like I had a sudden stomach ache. His lips were pressed together and his eyebrows pulled close in confusion. But I seen the way he looked at me while he thought I was alone. I could pull this off. A soft gesture would push him off the cliff. I was hoping you'd come back to my hotel and have a drink. His face lit up, and I belatedly realized I've touched down a F5 instead of a gentle breeze I've been going for. It didn't matter. It had worked. Let me just go to the counter. I grabbed his arm. No, just call him. It'll be easier. But the counter's right there. I tugged on his arm. I hate airports. I need to get out of here right now. He looked at me and the way I was now clinging to his arm and agreed. He dug out his phone as we walked away from the terminal. I looked back to make sure Fate saw, but instead of looking happy or even relieved, he looked a little pissed. Another reason we didn't make a good partners. He was way too angry. I did what he wanted and he still wasn't happy. Our hotel was across the street from the airport. We walked into the lobby arm in arm and I started steering us towards the bar. Maxwell steered us to the elevator. Maxwell won for now. He tugged me into the elevator after him. What floor? His hand hovered over the keyboard. 8. The button lit and he came and stood beside me, arms snaking around my waist. Between the look of his face, skin crackling and oozing, and the smell he gave off, it was almost impossible to not pull back, let alone keep the smile on my face. I was trying to remember why we were keeping this guy alive. Oh yeah, Suits wanted him dead. As I was choking on the scent of rotten eggs, I wasn't confident in that choice. Would it be so bad if we let Suits have his way with him? What were you doing at the airport anyway? Oh, I got family here. I just dropped my sister off. They let you in the terminal? My cousin works security. He nodded, buying my story. The door slid open and I walked as slow as I could towards mine and Fate hotel room. I fumbled around in my purse. Oh no, I can't find my key. I must have lost it. We're going to have to go to the front desk. I looked up at him. Was he buying this? It looked like he was. I thought I was actually quite a bad actress, but I guess he must have really wanted to believe. Hang on. He walked away and I saw a man with a nameplate on further down the hall. What the hell? I had decent luck my entire life. Everything had gone smoothly right up until I died. Now, nothing went right. I'm really not supposed to do this, the man said as he walked back over it with Maxwell, his skin glowing even brighter in comparison to Maxwell oozing. But okay. A minute later, he was opening the door and wishing us a pleasant evening. Thanks, Bozo. Good job. Glowing karma or not, I wanted to trip him down the stairs right now. I walked in the room and looked at the clock. 15 minutes of stalling and his plane would be gone. 15 very long minutes as he stared at me like I was a rump roast and it was dinner time. Fate's things were here and there, but Maxwell didn't seem to care enough to ask about them. Really? You don't notice a guy's shirt hanging on the open in an open closet? Come here, he said, patting the bed next to where he'd just taken a seat. Let me make you a drink first. I opened the mini bar. Long Island iced teas had a lot of stuff in them. That should kill a whole whooping minute or so as I opened up all the mini bar bottles. I could probably freshen up for another 5. That's not what I want. His hand snaked around my waist from behind and he pulled me into him. Never should have turned my back on him. What the hell is this? We both turned to see Fate standing in the doorway. I was glad I knew it was an act, or I might have been nervous because he looked pretty damn pissed. He appeared exactly like the angry husband about to be cockhold. Now, Fate would make a good actor if he ever went human. You said you split, Maxwell said, turning on me. And you had no problem ignoring all the male items in the room, you sniveling jerk. I lied. I threw my hands up in a bewildered way. I hate to tell you in this uncomfortable fashion, but I'm a bit of a loosey-goosey. I had a hard time not laughing at my own words. No one else seemed to find me as funny as I did, though. Maxwell was putting as much space between us as he could now, as he tried to circle around where the seething Fate stood toward the door. I had no idea. She lied to me, he said to Fate in what sounded like his best fake indignation. Am I the only lousy actor here? Get out, Fate said, his jaws tense and his veins pulsing. Maxwell scrambled from the room and I didn't blame him. Fate was really putting on a great show, maybe a little thick for my taste, but good nonetheless. He even slammed the door after him. What about the plane? Can he still make it? I asked as soon as we were alone. It left early. Any signs of suits? I've got it covered. What's wrong with you? You don't follow directions well. You said keep him off the plane. I kept him off the plane. You bring him here alone? I watched him walk out, slamming the door again. Jerk. I screamed at the door. I gave him 10-minute lead and made my way back to the airport. Time was running out to find the murderer before I would move on and didn't have patience for his games. I looked down into my purse to make sure I had a knife I'd packed. I wasn't leaving here without handling this situation. Fate could figure out another way to prove his conspiracy theory. I had never had an interest in finding alien burial grounds, JFK's killer, or any other such plot. Taking out the direct hand in my murder would suffice for me. And that's the end of chapter 27. Stay tuned for the next chapter.